Can the tech rally last? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Market House. I'm Maggie Lake, and today I'm talking markets with Dale Pinkert, trading coach at TradeGateHub. Hey, Dale, I don't even think I shouldn't even ask that question anymore. I mean, it feels ridiculous, right?
What, can it last?
Yeah,
Till eternity.
right. Buzz
Right.
Lightyear to infinity and beyond. It feels that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And, really the event of the week, despite having the Fed and the BOJ and the ECB and the meeting between Xi and
Mm,
Trump and everything going on was really what set the stage for this week was President Trump having an agreement in principle with Xi before he went to Korea and Japan.
mm.
And that set the market up with gap higher openings across the board. So the question for me early in the week was after a big advance like this, because there are different types of gaps. There are
Mm.
breakaway gaps, there are runaway gaps, and there are exhaustion gaps. So I'm thinking still it's possible it's an exhaustion gap, but it's not till it's filled. And that would be about 68.13, not about exactly 68.13. But you said you wanted to start with tech. So
Yeah. Hey, let me
tech,
just say to everybody
okay.
who's joining us, as we always do, welcome. Happy Halloween, everyone. If, as always, put your questions, thoughts, comments in the chats, and we'll get to as many as we can. We know we love that when Dale's here with us. So go ahead, Dale. Yeah, I thought we should do, I feel like we should start with tech because correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like this is being driven by tech in Mag 7.
Yeah, a lot. It's being driven by earnings. So you
Right.
know what's unusual is even within tech, even within MAGA, look at Amazon. I mean, it faded, but this looks like the best of times.
Mm,
And then look at Meta. Meta looks like the worst of times. Now look at Apple. Apple looks like the best of times, even though it faded pretty good, actually closed lower. And Microsoft is the worst of times. So you really can't even say tech anymore, can you? Because
mm,
they're bifurcating even within the Mag 7. So if you just go with averages, yeah, averages made all new time highs, but this is definitely bifurcation in a group that usually runs together. To me, that's another caution sign in the market. Semiconductors, they made new highs. They left a gap. But here's the theme I want to get to when I talk about the market. So you could say I'm wrong, or you could say I'm early. I would say that I have losses, like the premium on options that I bought. I've lost about 30% of their value. Oh, look, the S&P's faded pretty good near the end of the day.
mm.
But am I wrong? I think there's maybe a week or two left. We could probably get maybe one more rally. If we fill this gap, see this gap right here? This is what we
Mhm,
left
mhm,
Monday, right here. So we've had this huge advance from April. And normally a breakaway gap would happen at the beginning of the move. It breaks away from a basing formation and then begins to evolve into a bullish wave pattern. But this happened at record highs.
mm.
And if it's filled, that's not a good sign. In fact, it's called an exhaustion gap. So if the market is going to fill what's labeled exhaustion gap, that means it's tired, right? And what comes out of your exhaust, Maggie, when you're driving the car? What comes out? Fumes.
Fumes.
All right. So okay. So so to me, exhaustion means that the market's running on fumes right now, and I think some of this action will is describing it, especially with what you saw with Amazon compared to Microsoft and Apple compared to Meta. I mean, Meta. The reason they killed Meta was they're spending too much capex on AI. That's why
Mhm,
they punished them.
mm.
So what makes them different than everyone else who's spent billions upon billions and continues to invest in AI?
Well,
Why did they punish Meta for that?
so I obviously this is what we want to hear from the executives, but it's interesting because I think a lot of people have been waiting to see who figures out how to use AI to increase revenue and who doesn't. Where has this been justified? If Facebook hasn't proven that case yet, I think Amazon started to say some things that made people think, okay, they are reaping the benefits of their investment in AI. Now, it's early days, and I'm not saying that is true, but I think that seemed to be the takeaway from some of what they said. Now, somebody in the chat, sorry, I just dropped my mouse and I lost who you were, but one of our wise viewers just said, the good times will roll until people lose their jobs and raid their 401s. So I think what we haven't, the full conversation is, okay, maybe great, Amazon's increasing its revenue, but at what cost to the broader economy? Because we know this week they also announced job cuts, right? So this is where I'm not sure. I think we're all trying to figure out what the answer is.
Yeah, it's kind of like an avalanche. The snow sits there, drifts all over the place, and it's that last snowflake that causes the avalanche. It's like nothing happens, and then there's recognition, and everything happens at once.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a story before the end of the year. There's some smart people that we're looking for going into November, December for some of these economic numbers to be very weak, and maybe if this closed, the way I'm looking at it, I was thinking that we would probably have one more high and get that big round number of 7,000. Mm-hmm. And the reason is everything lines up on the S&P. Here's the weekly. So even though we've made new historic highs, here it is, this little candle here, which, barely, it didn't close great. It's still higher on the week, didn't do anything wrong. But it looks like it's up there on fumes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have the divergence on the weekly, and we had that last week too. And you have the divergence on the daily. We had that too, and it was not negated. And the only time frame that wasn't lining up with non-confirmations was the 4 hour, because the 4 hour was confirming up here. Into this week, it confirmed. Now, though, look at the RSI just after this little small correction. So if we did have one more run to new highs, then you'd have the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hour all lining up. That's pretty compelling for having divergence on multiple time frames like that when and if S&Ps make new highs. So I'm in the fumes camp.
It was DD, by the way, who had that great comment. I just want to give credit where credit is due. It's interesting, Dale. We have a couple of questions. So let's get through some of those. I want to ask you about bonds, and we can come back to technology if anybody has a specific question, because I think we're going to end on sort of sentiment and strategy here with a market that is causing some concern, but sort of how do you deal with it when it just relentlessly goes up? But we can circle back to that. One thing, we're talking about the job market. Powell, in the midst of it, we had so many headlines that they went by so fast because we had so much coming out from Washington as well. And this idea that, maybe the Fed's not going to cut in December. We're not really getting any economic readings, right? So we had earnings, and that obviously dominated, but we're not really hearing much about the economy right now. Is that kind of creating a blind spot that could be problematic? We did see after that Powell comment, bonds move, right?
Yeah. So the bonds, if I look at them right here, there's I was surprised actually that we negated the breakout at 4. Okay, 4 was a big level. We broke down. Now we're back above it. But this could still just be a little bear market rally before rates resume to the downside. So if you want Powell to lower rates in December, a market sell-off would motivate him in December to do so. So that could be, what he's holding back for. So we'll see what kind of, if we get risk off, that maybe the market forces him to go again. If the markets are up here, I don't think he will.
Yeah, and that brings us to the problem. If the Fed is coming in, is that, will the markets respond to that Fed put, or will they be worried if they're cutting and coming in? Then maybe that's a sign that there's that growth scare that some have been worried
Yeah.
about. If
Yeah.
anybody watched the interview we did with Warren Pies, it's on our Substack for members on Substack. He's kind of watching for that. He's not saying it's going to happen, but he's a little bit worried about that. Um, but we're not seeing anything, so we're kind of flying blind right now as to whether that's happening. And I think you're right, DD. I think the labor market's something a lot of people are getting a little bit concerned about.
Okay.
So,
So you know what? Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
so let's roll through a couple of these, and they're all over the place, which I love. Thank you all for that. So, Marcus is asking on Substack, I don't know if you watch this area that closely, Dale. I know you watch Commodities. Could you comment on the rare earth sector? It's made pretty substantial pullback from the October high. I see it basing through November and continuing upward into 2026. Would love to get your thoughts.
Give me a symbol.
Yeah, I mean, when you say rare earth sector, is it something in particular, like uranium, or are you looking at?
Give me what he's looking at.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't say stick it in there, Marcus, and we'll come back to that. Okay. So J&J saying, I'm thinking about a top in iron miners, Rio and Vale, and a bottom in healthcare. Does the chat or Coach Dale agree with me?
Let me look at Rio. If we get a break, everything's going to go down. It's really just there's an ADR. It's just a matter of magnitude. So let me look at Rio here on the fly.
As only you can do, Dale.
Yeah, it looks heavy. We may have peaked. I think this looks like this week we may have peaked. So yeah, I think that there's nothing wrong with booking profits in Rio. I think it's been a pretty big trade. It almost looks like everything else. Getting that parabola. Maybe you get a correction back to 66 or so. So yeah, I think that this was a pretty negative day. It confirmed on the daily, probably did on the 4-hour. Yeah, but this close is kind of crummy. It's not that far away from the highs. Take half off. You don't have to be all or nothing. So maybe what you do to test out your narrative is that you sell half of your Rio and put that into healthcare instead of liquidating it all and putting it all into healthcare. So, kind of wade into the water instead of always diving into the deep end. I understand the attractiveness of that because, money could come in a hurry, but you could also, hit your head on a rock because you can't see the bottom. So that's just a lifeguard's metaphor for trading.
We love a lifeguard's metaphor for pretty much anything.
So that looks kind of heavy. I wouldn't be adverse to selling something like this. In fact, look at where it closed on the week. So yeah, here's that 66 again. And if we get a growth scare, it's going to affect industrial metals too. All and as well as silver. The gold and silver are rallying, are stabilizing, and I'm just hoping for a rally in gold, maybe back to 41 to 4,200 to short it. I thought that might happen this week. Instead, it continued lower. I still think that there's a chance for that kind of rally to develop, and silver acted better than gold this week. So I think silver's a short at 50 to 50.50, and gold's a short from 41.25 to 4,200 for big moves to the downside. So I can't see Rio or copper. I mean, if there's a break in the market and there's a growth scare, what do you need these metals for? Without the growth.
Josh is agreeing with you on Substack, saying I see 66 on Rio too, but more highs after. It's a 4-year trend
Okay.
line breakout on that weekly. So
All
he
right.
doesn't think it's done yet, but this is you're both watching that level as important. And I think just to circle back what you said a moment ago too, I think what I always, the 4 Ps, I feel like we should have them a little sign with them, Dale, when you're on, because you always sort of go cautiously, right? You probe, you have your levels, but you're not you rarely, or do you ever go all in? You like to see some confirmation first when you have these ideas, right?
I never go all in
Yeah.
anymore. Okay. It's always, a certain percentage per trade that I'm risking. And I turn it into a winner as soon as possible. If the market goes my way, I'm going to book 40, 50 pips and then tighten up my stop and take the heat off myself. So
Mm.
the times that I lose is when my timing's really bad and I put on a trade, the market just runs over me and takes out my protective stop.
Mm.
It may have been intended to be a swing trade, but if I'm wrong the same day, I'm out. I'm not going to stay in because I thought it was going to be longer term. Now I do stay in with options, and I'm long a lot of bearish semiconductor calls. There, I know what my risk is.
Mm.
They could go to zero. I have some of those statements that I could put on the wall of options going to zero. But if I'm levered in futures, I always have a stop in. So
It's super important. It sounds obvious, but it is so important, because I think this is where I know there's some concerns. I talked to Tommy Thornton earlier in the week. He's really concerned about leverage, because he's talking to folks who can see it, and they see leverage in the system. People, so you always have to worry a little bit when we have this sort of momentum going and people are out there with leverage and they're not protected in the way Dale's talking about. So I always love when you walk us through there. Question, and you can answer this not even for Dale, but Endry wondering if anyone bought in the Meta blood or Oracle. So there's some people who are, putting some money to work on that pullback we saw, but that does not sound like something you would necessarily be thinking about doing, right, Dale? Because you think there's
no,
some
I don't.
pain to come in these.
I don't want to be a hero. I mean, they could bounce, especially if we're going to 7,000 in the
Mm.
S&Ps. But why not, buy something that is still performing, acting good? I mean, things like, things that I'm short, like semiconductors. They look a lot better than Meta and Oracle. So there's really nothing. I think people have to maybe think about not being long anything. I know it
Mm.
sounds um, kind of like, oh my God, FOMO misses. We're going to 8,000 S&Ps, but I still think that there's a chance that if what Warren's talking about and what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing technically, that there could be a surprise to the downside going into the end of the year. That we get, I still think there's a 10-15% correction from wherever the peak is. And it's either this week, if we take out this week's lows and the exhaustion gaps are filled, or maybe one more high.
Mm.
So I'm actually adding on to my looking for more bearish opportunities to get short. The Mag 7 is interesting with, some of it doing well, some of it not. But here's Mags. Okay. So it was at new all-time highs before we got the news on Meta.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so trying to recover here, but the daily's diverging. These are not good closes. Here is your bull bear line in the Mag 7. Take a screenshot of this, because if you see Meta trading back under the 66 level, look left for the memory, and old resistance becomes new support. If
Mm-hmm.
we break down, that will not only fill the exhaustion gap, but it's going to be a false breakout in the Mag 7. And it's still my contention that if I'm not taken away in by guys in white coats, because I'm still bearish that the Mag 7 is going to be the worst performer during the decline. And I think you could already see it. Many of the Mag 7s were not making new highs. Some still aren't. If they didn't get earnings, they're not. Microsoft hasn't made a new high in quite some time. I don't like the way this looks, and I don't like the way this is starting to look again. And this is your junk bonds, right? So this is what drove the last decline, was this little move. We made new highs on the daily and not confirmed. And this is more important to watch than the treasuries, I think, because the problems, when they come and they're popping up here and there, are from the opaque shadow banking system. But the normal banking system has been financing the shadow banking system. So the banks are vulnerable due to their investing in this area, private credit, etc. So this is really the key chart to watch. And if we start rolling over again, taking out this low, the market's going to sell off with it. So be careful. Don't own junk, stocks or bonds.
Absolutely. Question from and bonjour, C.E. Burke, or it's probably bonsoir where you are now. C. Gray asked, has Dale addressed VIX staying elevated?
Yeah, good point. I wrote it down. I was going to bring it up. And I also want to talk about, viewer asked about nat gas and crude last week. And
yes, and we have another question about crude this week as well. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So let's do VIX first.
Okay, let's look at the VIX. And I brought it up that last week we were not making new lows with the market making new highs. And because you reminded me of that call that I made on VIX before the big sell-off that we had when Trump talked about putting 100% tariff. Okay, so here you go. It had a good day. I mean, pulled back a little bit, but it's trying to turn the corner. Now we're putting in a higher low. I think this is a reason to be concerned, because you really didn't have that much of a down day, somewhat of a down day. But if we start getting back over this 18-20 level, that's going to be your more than a yellow light. That's a red light to get out of the way. So why can't we have this being a higher low and we get another rally up here into the end of the year with, some of the leadership faltering? So good eye, whoever that was.
Yep, good eye. We're going to do oil, nat gas, and then Marcus got back to us with his rare earth ticker too. So we'll get to that. Put that on the list just so you know, Marcus. Thank you for that. So what are you looking at for oil and nat gas?
Well, here was nat gas, and I said it left a big gap. That was last week. I'd be watching it into the gap. Well, it hardly even ate into the gap, and we're pressing new highs. I said I'm more bullish nat gas than crude oil, although they both look okay. Look how much powerful that looks compared to this. So I still favor nat gas, but there are some people, if you go shorter term, starting to think that this might be a head and shoulders bottom, where here's the left shoulder, here's the head, and now we're putting in the right shoulder. And if we break out over 62, we can make a run. But I still prefer nat gas. Seasonally, I think it's a better buy. I mean, we use it for heating. I don't know what Europe's doing this winter with what's happening with Russia, who's going to be really supplying them. So nat gas is my preferred long for now, I think. And if they both decline, I think it'll decline less.
Okay. So Marcus, the symbol he was thinking about for rare earths was REMX. I'm assuming it's an ETF of them, but let's see.
Van Eck. I don't know. We diverged at the high. Maybe I'd sell rallies.
Mm.
I think all this hype about it, and they did make a deal for a year that China wouldn't restrict rare earth exports to us. They're beginning to sound like Congress. But I'd sell rallies here, buddy.
Great question. And again, I just want to reinforce that, especially when you're talking about something like rare earths, and you just brought up a great aspect of it, Dale, which we talk about a lot, and I know you do too, and that's time frame, right? So Dale is looking at this sort of strategically take your profits. You can hold both things in your mind, right? You can long term have a view of a secular story about rare earths and demand for them. And then shorter term, you have to pay attention to cyclical things. Again, Warren and I talked about that. And I really, that was one of my big takeaways from my conversation with him. And I loved it because I think that helps sort of sort through some of the confusion we feel. So if you are a tech bull, and by the way, some of you are, we have a poll in the chat on YouTube, will the tech rally continue? And 65% of you said it will. So,
Good.
we get that argument a lot, right? AI and what's happening, and you can believe all that, but you can then shrink your time frame and have a different view based on price action. And I think, Dale, it's so valuable when you bring your charts in and you talk about the signals you're seeing. You have to really pay attention to that. You just can't lock in the long-term narrative unless you do not need the money and do not intend on looking at it for a very long time.
You know what, Maggie? I know this is the last week of my 2-month.
Well, we didn't put an end on your end of your residency.
Oh, well, okay. Anyway, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Okay. You interview many, many, many people. And what I do is a little different because I do what you do as well.
Mm.
And let me ask you, how many of your guests, when they come on, besides having an opinion and speaking a narrative, give tactical advice as far as levels where you were a buyer or a seller, where your stop should be?
You are one of the few, Dale. You are one of the few.
Because I could come on these shows and go, I'm bullish, and you know what, the market could go against me, and I go, oh, I'm still bullish. The narrative's in place. But if they come on and they just have an opinion, and they're not helping the audience with timing and being tactical,
that's right.
How is it actionable?
No, it's just BS. I mean, it's not BS, but you know what I mean? It's not, it's different. And you're absolutely right to call that out.
Okay.
But this is why we talk about both things. But it's important. The sort of narrative and the secular story is important. We're not discounting that. But
no, I'm not either.
Right. It's really important. But this is why we call you coach, right? It's really important to have the discipline in the short term on the types of things that you're talking about, and be able to be tactical and strategic and understand how to read charts and all of that. And just to underscore that, someone on YouTube said, Andrew said, wait, it just jumped. He's pure magic. Sometimes I think he does some sort of quantum meditation and gets prices from the future.
Yes, me and Edgar Casey. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's amazing. No, but it is incredibly important. It's incredibly important, the stuff that you talk about. And not easy. I mean, Dale shares this knowledge that has been hard won over many years of doing this.
Well, a lot of people have, just like they have a fear of losing money in the market, they have a fear of the public seeing that they were wrong. So if you speak in generalities, you're never really pinned down to, well, like next week, everyone listening to me now knows I'm a seller in gold at 4,100. Not, oh, I'm bearish and I would get out on strength. No, I'm going to sell. These are my levels. This is where I'm wrong. And then when I come on next week, if the gold market blows to 4,500, I'm accountable. Okay. But someone who just says, well, I'm bearish. Oh, yeah. It made a new high. I'm still bearish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And so does everyone who's watching, because David sharing, someone famous once said, I don't want to know your opinion. I want to know your position.
Oh,
And
good one, David.
that's a good one. And then
He's been watching these videos for a long time.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot
that's
of
a good
people
one.
are super happy and very grateful for all of the sort of teaching that you do around this. And B said, "Coach for the win." So I think that a lot of people really embrace what you're saying, Dale, and it's been really important, and it's helped them a lot, is what we hear. Let's get one more. Maybe from Josh Adobe. Is that ADBE? Or CVN? CVNA? Either one of those. Is that Carvana? I don't know. I don't have them all memorized. Unlike some people we know. Pick which one you want. We also have great demands to extend the residency, Dale. So, I mean, I think we need to give the people what they want.
Okay, well, you're on the 200-day. I don't think that's such a great sign. Maybe this was earnings. Looks like a distribution top. If the S&P's rally to new highs, use the strength to sell it. Maybe get a rally back towards 340, 330. I'd be a seller there, because if it takes out this 200-day, 400 to 300, you could be looking at 200 Carvana. And I don't think that's an area you want to be in when people that buy from Carvana, a lot of them are handing over the keys to what they bought a year ago or 2 years ago at Carvana. Right? So, I think you'll be able to buy used cars, and I'm waiting to buy an RV next year, because that's what
serious?
I am, because that's one of the first things people let go of, when they're doing well. Oh, let's get an RV. It'll be fun. We'll travel. They go out once, they hate it. It's like they say about a boat. The best 2 days are when you buy it and when you sell it. So, I'm looking for a break to buy in recreational vehicles.
All right. If anybody's got a great RV lead, let Coach know. But
I was in training.
You did the test drive, man.
Yeah.
You lived out there, right? Remember we had people worried about what's going on. Sorry, I have allergies. My eyes are so itchy today. Yeah, people are like, "What's happening with Dale? Is he okay? Is he living in his car? What's going on?" But you go by the coast, and you're amazing, because you're also, by the way, Dale was really getting his finger on the pulse of the real economy, because I remember you saying you were talking to people who were in the RV camp and around the universe, and and what was going on with them. You're at a different cross section of folks, aren't you, when you're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the ultra wealthy in Encinitas and Carlsbad, and even those prices are down 20% from their peak. Okay, so that's another problem.
Do you have your eye on a model, Dale?
Not yet. I haven't. No.
Got to get one with really good aircon, quiet aircon.
Yeah,
because we would make him turn it off.
I know. I know. Oh yeah.
It was like putting you in like it
was like a jet air. It was like a jet airplane was in the place. I know.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
Anyway.
Okay, and I just want to say we have so much love coming in. Colleen says Dale's my favorite. Friday Dale forever. I love it. A gift from the universe, says someone else. It's great stuff. So we'll get one more serious question before we let everybody go for the weekend. And I don't know, maybe people have trick-or-treaters banging on their door. I'm surprised I haven't heard my dogs yet. But Doug is saying, Dale, do you just use trailing stops to be into a sale, or do you use levels?
I have objectives before I get into the trade, where that's an out to me if it's close enough. And I usually go the market if I'm here, I'm present at my station, at my trading station. Otherwise, when I'm sleeping, I'll throw limit orders in, and I'll leave my stops in overnight in case there's something unexpected that could make the next morning very difficult. So but there's nothing wrong with going to the market on your entry or exit if you're there, because even if you give up a couple of pips, you're not in the trade to make 2 pips. I've seen people wait for their objective to be filled with a limit order, and then it gets away from them.
Mm.
So, just go to the market. That's what it's worth at that moment. Don't try and finesse for the extra handful and then miss getting in or miss getting out. Go to the market.
Fantastic stuff. All right, we are going to let Dale go. It has been a long week, but the residency is extended if Dale will come back. And it's a good thing because we have some people. The chat is so active today. Thank you. I love this. It's such a rare treat to be able to ask somebody like Dale questions and get that good wisdom. And there are a couple more filtering in late, but don't worry, just roll up with them next week and we'll talk about it. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Halloween, a fun weekend. We turn the clocks back. Enjoy the extra hour of sleep. It's going to be fantastic. Enjoy. Have a good one. Take care. Good luck out there.
Adios.